Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Robert Phoenix broadcasting to you live from Fredericksburg, Texas. What's happening? It is Sunday night, 7:30 p.m. A little bit later today, but I was putting the show together, so I wanted to bring you some quality content. And tonight, I think we'll have some. And what we're just going to do, we're just going to let things kind of marinate. We'll let the energies ferment while people start to show up here. Let me check in with everybody. Hey, we got Judy. There's Joni. Hi, Joni. Justice. Judy, June, Joan, and Justice. The 4 J's. How about that? Then we've got Isla, Lori. And just starting to gather the forces. I'm going to go ahead and put this link over on Facebook. And you guys can, you Facebook people, can come on over. Give me one sec here. There's a group called Ketogenic Egypt. I've been asked to invite, I've been invited to that group. Going live right now. Woohoo. Ketogenic Egypt. Sounds like an album, doesn't it? Like a early 80s progressive rock album. Ketogenic Egypt. All right. So there we go. I am over on Facebook. Well, I'm not really on Facebook. I just put my picture on Facebook. Let's see what else is happening with you peeps. There's Cato. Hello, Cato. JMP, been keto since last year. Love how good. You don't need all those funky carbs. Don't need them. Ketogenic Egypt. Oh, yeah, a masterpiece. What would be the band's name? You'd have to come up with a kind of a early 80s prog rock band name for Ketogenic Egypt. What about Ketamine Reptiles? What about that? Ketamine Reptiles and their brand new record, Ketogenic Egypt. Speaking of, hey, you coming up here or what? Oh, he can't come up here now. How are you going to get up here? Oh, Jasper's having a crisis because I rearranged the studio. How are you going to get up here? This is a long jump now, buddy. Think you can handle it? It's right here. Oh man, he's stressing because I moved his launching pad. All right, let me see if I can help the old guy because I know he wants in. Hold on, give me 1 second. You want to come up? Come on. I know you want to. Come on. I know you want up here. I know. Well, you wanted to come up. Yeah, I removed his launching pad. So, I don't want Jasper to feel left out. Because he knocks all this stuff around. Say hi to everybody, Jasper. You're actually making your appearance. Yeah, I know. It's a special night. It's a Sunday night. What are you going to do? You're going to come down here? What are you going to do? Well, you're either down here or you're behind there. What's your plan? What's your plan, Stan? Everybody says hi. Everybody says hi. Yeah, Jasper's elevated now. I just got to get him a new launching pad so it doesn't feel like he can't get up here on his own. I don't want Jasper to suffer feelings of being inadequate or being a victim. I'm all about empowerment for cats. Cats need to feel empowered. Just like people, we need to feel empowered. So this one time, maybe tomorrow, we'll see. I got to figure out the launching pad. We get a leg up. We'll definitely get a leg up. Okay, what else do we have here? Tulsi Gabbard is CFR. Tulsi Gabbard is weird, okay? Tulsi Gabbard is actually got connections with Sheldon Adelson. Okay, so I think she's got a great message. I think she's got a terrific message. I think she comported herself really, really well on Tucker Carlson, but I wouldn't trust Tulsi Gabbard. She has an interesting chart. We looked at her chart. She's got that basically Aries Libra bifurcation. So she's, peace and war, but she's really split. And I don't know if you could make a case for a split personality with an extreme seesaw chart. You might be able to. You just might. There's something, and don't get me wrong, I like her. I would love to like her more. I don't want to fall into the, hey, here's our next political savior trap. That's just never going to work. It's not going to work anymore. People don't get advanced to that level unless they've got really, really powerful people behind them, really powerful forces and entities behind them. And while Trump was probably pick number 2, maybe, and clearly he's got some really powerful people behind him. I mean, Sheldon Adelson, Mercers, and I think even the Kochs were funding Trump. I mean, there's a lot of money. There's a lot of money put behind Donald Trump. He says that he used his own money. Also, at that time, again, theoretically, the military and the government, the military, were also staunchly behind Trump. That's a very powerful base, very powerful. And the military isn't always your or our greatest ally. So you're not going to get to that upper echelon unless people who are extremely powerful are in your corner, okay? This grassroots shit, it doesn't really work. It just does not work. And I do think there was a little bit of grassrootsian energy around Trump. And I think what happened is that the powers that be were reading the room. And they realized that Americans just did not want any more Barack Obama. They were burnt out on identity politics. And I think Donald Trump was a guy that was tabbed. And he may have known he was tabbed. He may have been having discussions for a long time. And this was his time. Steve Bannon was incredibly important in the Trump election. Steve Bannon, you don't bring Steve Bannon into a campaign. And Steve Bannon, by the way, just doesn't come to a campaign because he's going to get paid a lot of money. Steve Bannon is an ideologue. He's a Sagittarius. He feels he's got strong beliefs. Sagittarians tend to have strong beliefs. They're either really strong believers or they're complete heretics. That's the nature of Sagittarius. So Steve Bannon was brought on, and he helped carry the ball across the goal line. I think Trump is a weird amalgam of a lot of different things. But now here we are. We're getting ramped up for 2020, and we have the Democrats obviously lined up. I'm going to talk about 2 candidates tonight. I'm going to talk about Kamala Harris, and I'm going to talk about Joe Biden. I'm going to look at their charts. I'm going to look at what was happening for Kamala Harris on election night. You're going to find it to be really, really interesting. Now, I do have a disclaimer. I think Kamala Harris, Camel Toe Harris, I think she'd be the worst possible choice for president of the United States. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. There might be 1 or 2. Eric Swalwell, probably right up there. I'm just talking about the Democratic side now. She'd be terrible. She'd be absolutely terrible. I'd rather have Bernie Sanders than Kamala Harris. And that's saying a lot, okay? And the reason why I think she'd be terrible and she's the worst is because she is probably the most cunning, the most politically connected, and the most savvy in a lot of ways of the bunch. And I don't trust her at all. I don't trust her at all. And she's also got very, very strong connections to the Obama camp and kind of the Alinsky school. You know, what she did to Joe Biden on the night of the debate, was that Thursday night? That was a total Alinsky move. Total solid. She went right after him. The whole thing was totally canned. You know, and I was watching it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just getting a little political here, and you know, then I'll get off the pulpit and I'll eventually read her chart. But I was watching the debate, and she looked over him. I don't think you're a racist, but, and then she launches into this thing about busing in California. This little girl, and I just knew as soon as she got into that story, I'm like, she's gonna say, and I was that little girl. I knew it. I just knew. It's like, here it comes. She was that little girl. Now it's a very psychologically adept move. Okay, very psychologically adept. Because what's happening is that we've got all these different forces and energies that are swirling around. And it's kind of like, oh God, it's a really bad analogy. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm not going to use it. I'll save it for the memoirs. But you have all these energies swirling around. Everybody is trying to, you know, pick their favorite. They're leaning in emotionally. They're trying to figure out who's going to grab them and grab their attention. So there's a lot of emotion being exchanged in that format. It is not an intellectual format. It doesn't lend itself to being an intellectual format. You've got 10 people and you have 2 minutes apiece, sometimes more, maybe a minute if you're Marianne Williamson, who wouldn't shut the hell up. But you've got 2 minutes essentially to make a splash and then perhaps take somebody else down, like your closest rival. We saw that on the night before, Wednesday night, with Julian Castro and Beto O'Rourke. Julian Castro looks like he looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon in a lot of ways. You look at his face; he's got that kind of, that sort of Dartuvan fish man look about him. He's a very unusual looking guy. I guess he's got a twin brother, right? Is it Juan? Anyway, he was a one-term mayor in San Antonio, and people in San Antonio can't stand him. You know, he's like one and done. It's like, I'm just here for the photo op, I'm here for the resume, and I'm on my way. Bang, he was gone, right? Obama snatched him up, brought him to Washington, D.C. Anyway, he went after Beto O'Rourke. He's his closest competition. Number one, he's from Texas. Number two, they basically have the same ideas. Number three, he's waiting to exploit the fact that Beto O'Rourke likes to fool around and pretend he's Hispanic, and he's not. He's a big, giant Irish leprechaun, okay? That's what he is. He's a 6'5" leprechaun with those ears. Anyway, he's as Spanish as much as I'm Moroccan, okay? And Julian Castro was waiting for him. He was waiting for him, and he got him. He got him. It was a gotcha moment. But that's what we're dealing with here. And so when these opportunities occur, it's sort of like the octagon. There's a lot of emotions flying around, and it's really not about ideas. It's more about gotcha and appealing to whatever the crowd wants to hear, right? Very rare where you see somebody just break with the party. Like, and that's true for Republicans too. I mean, when you get into party politics, I've talked about this before. It's about the group, it's about conformity, it's about a lot of things. It's not about being an individual or standing out. Tulsi Gabbard kind of did it a little bit. But, you know, she went after that guy, Tim Ryan, who was clueless, right? You may as well pack it in now. May as well just pack it in. Forget it. He's not going to get any money. Money time is over. This is all about money for the DNC. They want people to donate. You got 20 different channels for donations. Think about that. 20 different horses to put your money on. This could be a good money grab for the DNC. And Biden has so far raised the most. But Harris's money totals, I think, have gone up since the debate. So she did what Julian Castro did. She went right after Biden. That was her closest competitor. You're taking a page right out of Trump's book. She was going into that debate knowing that she was going to take down Joe Biden. Then it was her time, and she was sitting right next to him, right, placed right next to him. so that she could basically give him the look, right? It would have been hard to be 3 or 4 people down and do this, but she was right next to him and gave him the look. And it was right out of Valinsky. It was so canned, but she's Kamala Harris is very studied at this. We're going to look at her chart, not yet. We're going to look at her chart, and we're going to show you why she's so studied at this thing. She was on the Harvard debate team. She's been a prosecutor in California. She will be Bruce Lee in these freaking debates. This is what Kamala Harris is built for. She's built for public discourse. You'll see it in her chart. But it's going to be interesting to see how she plays in Middle America. In as much as people would like to equate her to being, in some ways, a female version of Barack Obama for this election, she lacks Obama's charm. Now, Obama's charm may have been the charm of a sociopath. That's a whole other discussion. But she lacks his charm. Obama was charming. He was disarming. He was like a black dude that plays golf with Tiger Woods. I mean, that was part of the Obama campaign. Kamala Harris is not like that. She will not come off as being a gal who's going to show up, down at the ice cream social. She's not going to do that. That's not who she is. And in fact, her goal is to completely overturn everything. And she has 2 things working in her favor. Well, one thing, she's a woman, okay? And what we know now is that women they're almost, as far as the caste system, women are almost untouchable. They're almost untouchable. Black women are at the top of that. They're almost completely, they get away with saying just about anything. And that's true. And I'm not the only person who's like, you could say just about anything, unless you're Jamel Hill, in which case you get kicked out on your butt, right? You're done. She went off and spouted off against Trump. Didn't work out so well for Jamel Hill. But that woman, Joy, what's her name, on CNBC or whatever she is, she's still around. Tweets are terrible, really bad. She's still around. So it's very difficult now in today's political climate. Like, just think about this. In the wake of what happened with Trump and Hillary Clinton, we had #MeToo. Do you think that Trump could have the same kind of debates that he did with Hillary Clinton? #MeToo? No, there's no way. There's no way. The press were not waiting. They weren't ready for that. They weren't ready for it. And they had to play catch up. It's never good to play catch up. Being on the defensive, worst place to be. You always want to control the narrative, right? Always want to control the narrative. So I don't think he can do what he did with Hillary Clinton unless he goes up against Elizabeth Warren, and that's a whole other piece, right? If he goes up against, he's already done it. So that's already been broached, and that wall's been breached. But Kamala Harris poses a very different challenge to Trump if he goes up against her. Now, the one thing that she would like to piggyback on is being Black African American. Now, I read her chart probably about 3 months ago. And one of the things that I brought up as part of that kind of exercise is that if you look into her chart, her father is Jamaican, born in Jamaica. Her mother is from India, East Indian. So she's a West Indian and she's an East Indian. And West Indians and people of Caribbean culture, technically speaking, are not African Americans. Okay, she is a Caribbean. She is a Carib. She's part Caribbean and she's part Indian. Okay, now there's a guy by the name of Ali Alexander. He's mixed. He's part black, part white. And he got in big hot water on Twitter because he tweeted something I actually brought up on my show, 3 months ago. I'm not here to take credit for it, and it's all out there on the internet. You poke around far enough or long enough, you'll find stuff, right? I found it wasn't that hard. Wasn't that hard, but I was looking. If you're not looking, probably it's going to be difficult. Well, this guy brought something up to people that weren't looking, and he said that she has no right to piggyback on the African American experience or the Black American experience, but she's really neither. She's neither. She's not. Her father comes from a different culture. Okay, her mother comes from a different culture. And then, and this was really kind of the kicker, is that, and this is true, that her family on the Caribbean side were slave owners. They were slave owners. That's part of the public record. And her father has constantly gone, by the way, her father should really watch his back. I'm telling you, because he's a liability politically to her. He's already come out against some of the stuff that she said, and she embarrassed him when she started talking about getting high and listening in college and listening to Tupac and Biggie. Tupac and Biggie were not around when she was in college. She must have been really high. She must have been time traveling. That's how high she was. She was so high, she went into the future and she was listening to Tupac and Biggie before everybody else was. And her father came out and basically said, you shouldn't be doing that. And she, she's theoretically, she's lying. So this tweet, which was retweeted, by the way, by Don Trump Jr. Now, Don Trump Jr. had to pull that down. I guess we're in the shadow of Mercury retrograde now, which we are. And this guy, Ali Alexander, has caught a ton of shit. And the people are begging Twitter to pull this guy's account because he's racist. Well, he's black. His mother's black. His father's white. His mother's black. What is the one? It's the 1% rule, right? 1% of blood. Is that what it is? So can you be racist when you share the same? In fact, he's darker than Kamala Harris, for crying out loud. And so he's just pointing this stuff out, and he's not happy about it. And there's been a huge outcry to shut this guy down because of one tweet. And it's really interesting. I'm just giving you backstory, just a little bit of backstory. Meghan McCain, man, she went after him hardcore. Turns out this guy worked on John McCain's campaign. He's a conservative, okay? Whatever. He's a conservative. He worked on John McCain's campaign. How about that? So Meghan McCain went after a guy that worked for her father. The whole thing is weird. The world is weird, okay? The eclipse energies are coming. They're getting intense. But it's good, man. It's good. Life should be intense in some ways. There's a time when life is good for cruising and going with the flow, right? And having water find its own level. There's a time for that. And then there's a time for intensity. There is a time for intensity. There's a time for change. You like her or not, Megan Rapinoe is kicking ass in the Olympics. Or not the Olympics, though, the World Cup. She's a Cancer, by the way. Ironically, born July 5th, day after the 4th of July. And she hates America. Isn't that ironic? But she's ratcheted up the intensity. And, she's walking her talk, man. I personally, I don't care if she doesn't go to the White House or not. I do have a bit of a problem with her not, addressing the national anthem because the country's given her a lot of perks, and I'm sure that taxpayer dollars have helped her travel all over the world with the women's national team. Okay, so we've given her something. At the very least, she should be grateful for that in the people that she represents, right? The people that she represents. And that's all of us, not just a select few, not just specially anointed group, okay? But, props to her. She's scorching the field. She's scorching with her, she's ratcheted up the intensity. She's gotten intense. And she's Cancer. True Note is in Cancer. It's her time. Just like Kawhi Leonard, who just took down the Golden State Warriors. Cancer. True Note in Cancer. This is a time when Cancerian people are going to be in the public spotlight, which is why I talked about Elizabeth Warren as possibly being the woman. I don't think Joe Biden is going to get the nomination. I do not think that the Democratic Party wants a white male, an older white male, going up against Donald Trump. I don't think so. It's not in alignment with their ever-evolving ethos, their new creed and manifesto, which is right out of the Bolshevik playbook, is going to say, hey, we've got this person and they're eminently qualified and they meet all the criterion that the party wants. It's the party, right? It's the party. It's not the people. It's the party. Remember the last election? It was the party that wanted Hillary Clinton. I'm not a Bernie Sanders fan, but in a lot of those primaries, they wanted Bernie Sanders. And in Nevada, the vote was just taken. It was taken. It was like ridiculous. If I was a Democrat, I would have become a Republican that night, or I would never, ever, ever, ever have voted again. Watching what happened in that primary, watching them steal the primary with the delegates there in front of everybody and just basically saying, too bad, tough shit. This is what the party wants. It's not what you want. It's a microcosm of the big game, the big plan. Anyway, I think Kamala Harris is dangerous. I think she's dangerous. I think she is the perfect person to be an ideologue. And that's probably why she's going to be very, very close, I think, to being the person who will come out of this whole clusterfuck that they've got going on the left. With maybe Elizabeth Warren, I think, being in the conversation. And if it comes down to Warren versus Harris, that'll be very interesting to watch. Very interesting. And Kamala Harris, take no prisoners, man. That woman is very ambitious. Super, super, super ambitious. But we have a long time to go until we get up to election night, right? A long time to go before even the Democratic Party announces its candidate. You know, there are many, many miles across, and there are many moons theoretically that we'll be sleeping under. The weather has been absolutely bonkers. It has been bonkers. You know, they've had snow in Colorado this last week. Here in Texas, we've had these rains that have been insane. Like one side of the street will just be pouring, another side of the street will be sunny and bright, just weird stuff, right? We've got some rumblings in Yellowstone. Oh, yeah, that's right. The ground is starting to shake, rattle, and roll a little bit. We've got geysers going off in Yellowstone. Never a good sign. Uranus is in Taurus, and by the time we're done with Uranus and Taurus, we're going to see some earth changes taking place. Will they happen? Will they happen before the election? Quite possible. Quite possible. We might be dealing with some significant earth changes before 11, what is it, 11/9 again? 2020 rolls around. I've got a weird feeling about the election. This is just my hunch, my instinct. I've got a weird feeling about it. I don't know if it's going to go off as planned. I just have this weird, when we get up into that Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January, February, to me, that's kind of a game changer. And I don't know if it's an economic game changer, if it's an ecological game changer, if it's a combination of both. There's something on the other side of that conjunction that just, to me, feels different. And I would say there's a good chance we'll have an election, but I've never felt more skeptical about it actually taking place because of where the astrology is. Because of the eclipses, especially the December eclipse, with all those planets in Capricorn leading into the Pluto-Saturn conjunction. And hang on. Get a front row seat. That's where it's at. All right, let me check in with you guys in the chat room. Let's see what's happening. A volcano went off in Papua New Guinea. But that didn't happen anytime soon precisely, Kate. What we have here, December 26. 3 feet of snow in Guadalajara, Mexico in the middle of summer. Streets are blocked, full of snow. Mud volcano open in New Zealand neighborhood. You're on a Satora shaky ground on many levels. Free healthcare to Americans, sure, yeah, I'd support that for every American who needed it, was cared for and housed. I can't even begin to talk about the utter lunacy of what I saw on Thursday night. It was the first time that as an American, I became really skeptical about the country and where the country was. When Trump was elected, I didn't feel skeptical about where it was headed. I didn't think people would be rounded up and lynched and hung and all the onerous events that were predicted by people who said that Trump was going to be plantation owner, Mussolini, Hitler. No, none of that stuff has happened. None of it's happened. If anything, the reverse has happened. And we've let, instead of caging people, confining people, we've let more people in this country since Trump has been on watch. I don't know what the Democrats are pissing and moaning about, because immigration has never been better under Trump. The economy's good for a lot of people. What are they crying and complaining about with that? Right? They love Islam. He's buddies with Saudi Arabia, bringing all kinds of Muslims into the country. They have a problem with that. They asked Trump about Pete Buttigieg and gay marriage and marrying his partner. Trump says, I think it's great. It's progress. What are these people like? What were they afraid of? Really? What has he done? What has he really done? It's like, because I'm trying to make a point. I knew that when he was elected, that it was going to be pretty much business as usual, and maybe, just maybe, we get a few perks, like being taken out of the that trade deal, right? Which was good. He did that. He got us out of the Paris kind of global climate thing. The reason why the climate's all fucked up is because they've been geoengineering the planet for the last 25 years. That's why it's all messed up. And we've got all kinds of frequencies that are bombarding from all over the place, all across various spectrums, from 1G to 5G to HARP frequencies, scalar frequencies, RFID frequencies. Of course, the planet's going to be schizophrenic. And then you have all the geoengineering spraying in the skies, the breaking of the loop current, the Gulf currents, right? It's all there. But we have played a role in what's happening, the mutation of the weather. Plus, the sun, theoretically, all the other planets are warming up too. So he got out of that stuff. But this is not, I don't know, it's just, the whole thing to me is bizarre. It's bizarre. I mean, if you look at the statistics, right, they said, well, Trump is a racist. Well, black employment is higher than it's ever been in this country, higher than it's ever been. He's promoted that. I mean, it's just, to me, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. However, that said, if these people get in office, we are in trouble. I'm telling you right now, I'm crossing a line, and I'm just telling you, we are in trouble. Because what I saw was utter lunacy. Like what they were talking about, that has no kind of point of reference to any country I know or experience. I mean, we always had kind of, a stripe of socialism inside of our system. Thank you, FDR. Thank you, LBJ. We've always had a stripe, but we haven't been a full-blown zebra, okay? And what I saw, and that was everybody, that includes Tulsi Gabbard, what I saw was everybody was advocating, for all intents and purposes, socialistic and communistic programs. Free healthcare and Medicare for everybody, Medicare for all the illegals. Let's wipe out student debt. I mean, it's just like these people have absolutely no grounding in reality. I was like mind blowing. And I'm thinking to myself, you have those kinds of policies and you bolt them onto the Frankfurt School social identitarian, social Marxist political agenda, and it's going to be rough sledding. I'm just telling you right now. And if you think free speech is having a hard go of it now, just wait. Just wait till the left it gets in. And the right, they're not doing us any favors either. Trust me, they're not. And I've talked about this before. If you're on the right and you're in power, do you really, 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 really want free speech to go away? Really? No, you don't. You don't. It doesn't help you. You know, there are, I'm sure, some people who are in Congress or Senate, they may feel somewhat passionately about it. At the end of the day, it's really supporting your position. Because you don't want people coming down on your ass, even if they have the facts and the truth. Right? It becomes an expressway for liars and con men and sociopaths. So neither side is doing any of us any good when it comes to the whole free speech issue. So I'm not just sitting here and saying that the right has the deed and title to free speech. They clearly don't. But the left, forget it. Because you see what's going on now. They get in power, free speech, see you later, sayonara, adios, goodbye. All right, I'm going to get into some astrology now. Let's see what we got. The right want to blow up the world. I don't even hate Trump, but damn, no one of integrity wants to rise to the occasion. Don't blame him. Them presenting themselves as enemies of constitutional rights. Well, the right hasn't been helping out either. You know, I look at Lindsey Graham. He's a guy on the right. What does he want to do? He wants to go over and bomb the shit out of Iran. How constitutional is that? You just go over there and do it. How constitutional is it? It's not. You gotta declare war. You have to declare war on a nation. It's not constitutional at all. You know, both the sides are really not really doing us a whole lot of favors. Something more. Anyone hear about Ebola being masked as measles? Okay, I gotta drop the Ebola 411 here. It's not about the measles. But last week there were two Central Africans that were picked up in El Paso, and they were quarantined because they had some kind of unknown disease. Okay, do the math on that. All right, let's do some astrology. Sorry, a little bit of a long rant, but I probably should have saved it for tomorrow. Probably would have been better for tomorrow. I know a lot of people here just want to get here and get in and talk about astrology, but sometimes it's where the stuff goes. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Chart of the moment. Chart of the moment. Come on now. All right. This is where we're at. Let me see where we. Jasper is just making himself feel right at home on the other side of this computer. Right at home. Let's just say he's stretching out a bit. All right, there we go. Chart of the moment. So we started off tonight with the ascendant in Sagittarius. Of course, I was a little Sagittarian self-righteousy there for a few minutes. Now it's kicked into Capricorn. It's all business. It's all business now for the rest of the program tonight. I got my Capricorn on. Pete Buttigieg is a Capricorn. He looks like a little Capricorn, doesn't he? All right, Saturn-Pluto conjunction right there, first house. We know that that's where the dance is. Of course, we've got that ongoing Saturn-Pluto conjunction, sextiling Neptune. And again, what is the payoff and what is the benefit of that aspect? I'm going to tell you what it is. It is through structure, discipline, some austerity, and perhaps a little bit of denial. And I'm going to use denial in a different kind of sense. If you deny yourself something that you know is not really good for you, that's Saturn. Saturn in Capricorn. It's like, you know what? I really, 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 really like a fresh squeezed, ice cold margarita. I love that, right? Fresh squeezed, ice cold with lime, orange juice, and Cointreau. Like right now, I've got this Pavlovian effect in my mouth. I can feel it. My mouth's getting all watery. That, like, you know, the salt on the rim, and that salt hitting that sweet bitter, and you get that nice smoky kind of agave kick coming in. Love it. Summertime. Guess what? I'm denying myself that. You say, well, why would you want to deny yourself that? It sounds so good. It's because I have a longer term goal. A longer term goal is to reverse the abuse that I have heaped on my body for the last decade at the very least, both from a physiological and psychological and emotional point of view. Right? I'm doing my best to, recharge. So that's the Saturn-Pluto conjunction. Okay, that's the conjunction, because Pluto is transformational. And when it hooks up with Saturn, you can use that energy to get disciplined, structured, ordered, and I'm working on it. And then the sextile to Neptune is the spiritual payoff. It's the spiritual benefit. It's the strengthening of the spirit, right? It's the bond between you and God, you and the Most High. That's what it is. And by cutting off the things that get in the way, the sextile is activated. That's what sextiles do. They activate. They're not like trines. Trines are like, money in the bank. Sextiles, you got to turn the key and you got to push the accelerator. And that's the payoff for that. And it's available to everybody. And the Saturn retrograde and Pluto retrograde, it's a good time to go back and pull things, from your past. And you maybe want to resurrect them, things that you've started and haven't finished, right? For people, it can be purpose related. Saturn can be very purposeful inside of a chart. If you're not meeting your purpose, or you're not feeling like you're connected to your purpose, and by the way, purpose is such a slippery slope. A lot of times we define purpose by some kind of recognition from the world at large. And I would say your purpose should be reflective or equal to parts of yourself that simply feel at peace when you're doing something of value and worth, regardless of how the world seems to reflect or respect what you're doing, okay? And sometimes a purpose can be really wonderful. Like maybe you're a really good friend. You know what? That's a heck of a purpose. I'm serious. In this kind of satanic, Luciferic overdrive age that we're in, where everybody's just wanting to kind of step on another person to get whatever it is they need or want. Sometimes really basic fundamental stuff like your purpose is being a good friend. That's great. That's great. You know how many people don't have friends? Do you know what kind of a role you play in somebody's life if you're a really good friend to 3 or 4 people? Don't undervalue it. Don't undervalue it. That's a really important role. And that could be your purpose. Maybe your purpose is to have a really solid relationship and to build on that relationship. And, you do your work and your work is okay. But man, you've got a great relationship when you go to bed at night. You know that the person you're going to bed with is the person that, you want to go to bed with the rest of your life. When you wake up in the morning, there's a kiss and a hug and you support each other. And if that's your purpose, God bless you. Maybe your purpose is to be a parent, to be a good parent. Lord knows we need good parents in the world. They're becoming a vanishing species. If that's your purpose, great. Maybe your purpose is, to be a really, really, the best of what you do. Maybe you're an X-ray tech, and maybe your purpose is to be the best X-ray tech there is. I'm just telling you, or I want to share with you that sometimes we're in search of this elusive purpose. Purpose and potential are 2 different things. Okay, they're 2 different things. And sometimes they are not always driving in the same car. And that's where it gets a little trickier. So I have clients at times, right? Coaching clients. And sometimes the most challenging coaching clients are the ones who have a respectable stand-up day job. And that's not enough. And that they have another side of them. And the other side can be valid, right? It can be valid. I find this with men mostly. And the other side is that they're emerging and they want to have some kind of connection with spirituality, and they want to make an impact on the world. It's more kind of how do I say this? Softer values, but softer values with kind of a a male kind of angle or slant to it, right? And that's a harder one. That's a harder one to make a jump with, because in many cases people will have careers that they've set up that can be very comfortable, or they'll pay them a certain amount of, and women get into this too. Don't get me wrong. I've noticed this with a few men, and they wind up trying to figure out how they can really break out and do something different. But in many cases, they either can't or won't have a radical break with what they're doing in order to really test themselves and to find out if their potential in their mind can become their purpose. And the two aren't always synonymous, but it'd be nice if we can, align ourselves and have our potential and our purpose be one thing in one kind of direct signal. It's not impossible. It's not impossible, but I'm also here to tell you, it's not always important either. Okay. What is important is that you do what you do well, you do what you do with character and integrity, and you do what you do as a result of actually love, right? Respect and self-respect. And if you do that enough, eventually what will happen is that you'll align yourself to be in a place where when there are transits, you can take advantage of them, because you've built a foundation for that. You built a foundation that you can take anywhere. Those are basic fundamental skills. When I teach astrology, I talk about the second house a lot, and how if you don't figure out the second house in astrology, the rest of your chart is probably 35 to 40% less effective. And that's the truth. It doesn't matter if there's nothing in your second house. You've got a sign that's on the cusp of the second house. You better figure that second house out, or else there's not going to be a whole lot more that you can do with you can, but you're always going to be at a disadvantage. If you can't pay your rents, you can't make a car payment, or you can't buy high quality food that will fuel your body, then how are you going to go out and change the world? How are you going to go out and become a magical, powerful healer? It's very difficult, very difficult. So you got to nail down the second house. And that's a key for everyone. It's a key and a code for everyone. If you can do that, then you can build on your chart. You can build on this and go, okay, well, what else can I do? It's important. A lot of times, and this is what happened, I've talked about this before, the 1960s, it was Shortcut City. That's what happened. It was Shortcut City. It was do as thou will. It was magic. And look, I'm a believer in magic. I've had some very synchronistic, very magical moments where I've actually been on the transmission end of magic. And it's been cool. Nothing I sat in a circle with or scribed with. You're just in the moment. You're in the moment, and you're attuned to the moment. You're able to do something, right? You're able to create or co-create something magical, something synchronistic. That's there all the time. Now, there's higher levels of magic, right? There's like planetary magic, stuff like that, which I'm not really going to get into right now. I'm just talking about you being effective, being able to, practice that. And the 60s were like, magic 24/7. was like 7-Eleven, right? 7-Eleven just used to be 7-Eleven. Now it's all 24 hours. Anyway, it never changed your name. But that's what happened. We got addicted to magic. We got addicted to shortcuts, psychedelics, LSD, psilocybin, moving it on up to the 21st century. What do we have now? We got ayahuasca. We got DMT. DMT is shortcut city. DMT is the most shortcut of all the shortcuts. All you got to do is smoke some DMT, and now you're here, now you're not. And you get to, sing Camptown races with, machine elves. And that is really the shortcut of choice now. But shortcuts, while they can give you insight, don't always allow for really long-term progress and growth. And we got hooked on the shortcut. And what we didn't really address is how to live a life where you put one foot in front of the other, and you do it in an authentic way, and in a way that's got self-respect. And then through that process, you begin to expand your horizon. And I think we're getting there now. I think we're retracing our steps. That's my sense. We're retracing our steps. It's kind of like we stole fire from the gods, and then we burned the forest down. We're retracing our steps. And look, some cool things that come out of the shortcuts. Think, who was it? Crick. Didn't Crick discover the double helix on LSD? I mean, hey, if he doesn't pop some acid, he doesn't discover the double helix. But I feel like now we're at a point where reality, so-called reality, doesn't support shortcuts. Does not support. Well, I'll tell you what it does support. It supports this right here. You want to face some stuff? You want to get down and face some things? That's Saturn Pluto conjunction. It'll support that. You want to face some shadow? You want to really take a long look at the mirror, see who's looking back at you? Saturn Pluto conjunction will do it. Because you're looking at your path, right? Saturn is kind of indicative of your path. When it's in Capricorn, that's your long-term, long-range, long goal path. It's either going to be wherever Saturn is, or it's going to be reflective of your 10th house, which is the ruling house of Saturn. Yeah, you could look at your 10th house. Absolutely. All right, Neptune. What is Neptune doing? It's got a square with the moon. Neptune moon square. Seems like, when did we have the Neptune moon square? Last week? Or was it 2 weeks ago? Might have been 2 weeks ago. Was it 2 weeks ago? It was, oh yeah, it was that moon in Sag. It was that moon in Sag. It was when I kind of lost my cool a little bit. It was that night. We're back. We're back to that Neptune moon square. Yeah, that's going to be happening tomorrow. When you wake up in the morning, that moon's going to be creeping along. So, I mean, Neptune moon squares are, we've got moon in Gemini, so it's about being objective in relationship, or objective with your feelings, almost schizophrenic in some ways. People that have moon in Gemini, I've noticed, and I've known a few of them, they like to talk about their feelings. They like to talk about their feelings. And if they can talk about their feelings, it's a good thing for them, right? But there's a lot of intellectualizing the feelings with moon in Gemini. I think moon in Gemini is a little kinky too. I've noticed that as well. It's a little on the kinky side. I think you can read that in an astrological text somewhere. So the moon Neptune square, again, it's kind of like, what are we talking? I'm talking about the shortcut. It's in Gemini, it's very much like the trickster. And the trickster is the thief in many ways. The trickster and the thief are kind of symbiotic with one another. It's like Prometheus is a thief. And Prometheus steals fire from the gods. And he's a bit of a trickster too, right? Bit of a trickster. Hermes, Mercury, moves between worlds. He's a trickster. And I don't think he's above relocating objects. So when we have the moon in Gemini, it's about part of it is about, are we fooling ourselves with our emotions? Or are we fooling ourselves with our emotional content? Because that square with Neptune definitely comes into play. Definitely comes, and that's again just now, chart of the moment, kind of sets the tone for the week. Venus is moving out of square with Gemini. It's actually getting ready to move into Cancer. So we've got an 8-degree orb. So Moon, Venus squaring off again. We're dealing with things like fluidity, honesty, communication, bonds that you either honor or bonds that you don't honor. And if you don't honor them, you let them slip away. Are you going to be clear and honest about those bonds? You know, there's a little bit of glamour with the Venus-Neptune square, and even with the Moon-Neptune square. If you do go to work tomorrow, make sure that nobody's pulling a pity party. Don't fall for other people's sob stories. With a Neptune-Moon square, it's quite possible. The sun is now at 8 degrees Cancer, so it's creeping. It's going to be creeping into that trine with Neptune. We're going to look at the eclipse tonight. I think it's, you know, Heather and I talked about this a few weeks ago. We're going to have another re-examination of eclipse. I think the opposition is going to be pretty intense in eclipse. And that's the opposition with Sun Saturn, Moon Saturn. Anyway, we've got Mars at the anaretic degree of Cancer. Tomorrow moves into Leo, and it is going to go into Donald Trump's 12th house. It'll be a very interesting time. We talked about that last week. And what else do we have here? So every day now, the moon's going to get closer and closer and trine with Neptune. That could just be treating people with more kindness. You know, I tell you, in this day and age, no, if I think it's really important that we slow down. We slow down a little bit. I think it's really important because yesterday I was about to send a text to somebody, and I looked at the tone of my text, and I thought to myself, that's fucking condescending. Why do you want to send that? You know, why do you want to send that? And I didn't send it. Like, what point was I trying to get across? And who would feel better about this? Me or the other person? Well, probably not the other person. Maybe I'd be justified in my, you know, so-called righteous revelation. But I didn't send it. I didn't send it. And I feel like with the Moon, Sun, Neptune trine, I feel like we can have more of those kinds of moments where we just slow down a little bit and really try to understand what our intent is. That's my take. You can take it any way you want. All right, here we go. I'm back here, full screening. Let's check in with you guys. Let's see what's going on in Chatlandia. Gemini sons are like magpies. What else? Remember to hit that like button. Yeah, go hit that like button. Thanks, Joe. There we go. I'd always say I was lost in my gym friend's house. Oh, that's funny, Kato. So one of a kind. So no question, it was mine. That is so funny. That is really funny. I was good friends with this guy Jorge Reyes. I've talked about Jorge before. Jorge was a musician from Mexico. He was in a psychedelic rock band called Chacmul. They were pretty big in Mexico. Then he split off and he started to do this indigenous music. And he would go out and he'd hang out with the Huichol Indians and the Yaqui, or it's another tribe. Anyway, he would hang out with them. He'd, you know, play their flutes and study their music, and he became very close to the Huichols. And he did this amazing blend of like atmospheric electronics and you know, this indigenous percussion and chanting and body percussion. Jorge to me was like, you know, he was badass. I loved Jorge, and he was a Libra, and he's a cool guy. I hung out with him, you know, a number of occasions. And however, Jorge had a propensity of, he's passed away now. Like, I can say this. He had a propensity of stealing things from people. He would steal things. Now, he never stayed with me, so he never sold anything from me. But everybody that had Jorge stayed at their house, they would find CDs missing. And this is a guy that could afford CDs. And one time a friend of mine had Jorge staying at his house. And he just, because he had heard that, this guy's a Gemini too, the guy I'm telling you about. He had heard that Jorge would boost things. And he went into Jorge's suitcase and he found a bunch of silver knives from his dinnerware set and about 5 or 6 CDs. So he was like, and what was really interesting is that because everybody loved his music and he was a cool guy to hang out with. So everybody tried to like wrap their heads around why this guy was stealing. And somebody came up with this kind of idea that that because he was very shamanic, that it was a fetish and that he had to take something so that he could do what with it? Would he have power over that person? Was that what he was doing? From that sense, I don't know. But maybe he was just stealing, right? Maybe he was just stealing. And people couldn't bear to admit to themselves that this guy that they let in their home, a fellow musician, a collaborator, somebody who might have been the recipient of their patronage, was also a thief. So the stories we tell ourselves sometimes are quite interesting. Jorge was a Libra. I love that guy. He was great. Even if he was a thief, I liked him a lot. And I loved his music. Okay. So where do we go from here? Let me check in with you guys in the chat room. See what you're doing, what you're talking about. Left to right. Shamanic fetish. Shamanic fetish. Yeah, that's a new scene, right? I mean, there's this really weird line with shamanism and kind of really dark occult bondage stuff, right? There's some kind of weird transcendence thing. Okay, all right. So I'm going to get into Kamala Harris's chart, but not quite yet. So I discovered this guy last night. I didn't know anything about him, and that's rare because I'm basically like I'm a cultural seagull. Like I go to landfill and I just sort through cultural stuff, right? So I tend to think that I've got a fairly good handle and take on culture and people. And I ran across somebody that I had no idea of last night, which was rare. So I'm gonna show you his picture, and then I'm gonna show you a little trailer, little trailer of this documentary that I saw. Then I'm gonna get into his chart. We're gonna look at a few things. Okay, so let me do the picture thing. Gotta find the right picture. It's not the right picture. Okay, what do we got? I got a lot of stuff on my desktop. Where is it? Come on. Oh, nice picture, but not one you want to see. Okay. Hold on here. Oh, here we go. Here we go. All the way at the freaking bottom, of course. Let me see if I got any more of this. These pics. All right, so yeah, there's one more. Let me see, I'll grab it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is. Let me do screen share. Come on. all these windows, man. Okay, here we go. So this is Bunker Spreckles. Now, some of you may know who Bunker Spreckles is. I just like I said, I just ran into this guy. I had to run into him. He's dead. But I found a documentary on him on Amazon called Bunker 77. Now, he is the son of the Spreckles family fortune and heir, right? He's an heir of the Spreckles fortune. So he comes from the line of the Adolphus Spreckles family. They were Germans, and they had a connection with Hawaii. And the old man Spreckles, about 3 generations before him, or was it? Yeah, 3, did a deal with a king in Hawaii for sugar plantations and sugar cane. So Spreckles became one of the sugar barons or sugar dynasties of the 20th century. So now he is the great grandson of the first Spreckles, right? And his father died when he was quite young. And his mother remarried, and she married Clark Gable. So this guy grew up to be an enfant terrible in Southern California. I'm going to play you the trailer, and then I'm going to get into his chart, because there's some interesting things about not only his life, but of course also his death. Okay, so let me get into this here and cue this thing up. All right, another share. Share screen there. Okay, and we'll do full screen, and here we go. Oh.
1, 2, 3. Your name Bunker Spreckles. Why don't you get a chair? What's it like being a living legend? Fantastic. Started really well. You wanted to make an everlasting mark, way before it's gone. The most fun guy. You asked me called the most decadent person in survey. It's hardly outrageous. It's just an international jet set surfer, like something that nobody else wants. He's sort of a rock star, sort of a surfer. He's a hybrid. Hollywood's Prince of Decadence, the player. Clark Gable's stepson, heir to the Spreckles sugar fortune, dressed like a pimp. His idea of partying just got to be bigger and bigger and bigger. Every guy wants what Bunker's got. You can definitely have too much fun with too much money. Millions, Mercedes, mayhem. Where punk rockers way before there ever even was punk rock? It was aggressively out of control. He was a dangerous man. Finally dangerous to bring up. Living on the edge, surfing, big waves, it was life and death all the time. You just go left hand turn and there on in. A lot of people don't understand what Bunker did.
All right, so it's just a trailer, but it gives you kind of a little bit of a background. This guy was a total wild man, and he lost 2 fathers. Clark Gable was his second father. So there's a fatherless theme in the story, a fatherless theme, I believe, in his chart, and he just goes he leaves his family at a young age, goes to Hawaii, is basically living off the land in Hawaii, 18, 19 years old, 20 years old. You know, he's just picking fruit and surfing, dropping acid. And then he gets called back to California and he inherits on his 21st birthday millions and millions and millions of dollars. And if you don't think money changes you, watch that movie. Because that not only does it change him, but it thrusts him into an almost Laurel Canyon-ish side of the LA surf scene. And it gets very dark, and his life becomes extremely dark. And he winds up hanging out with Kenneth Anger and is in love with Stanley Kubrick and Andy Warhol, and sees himself as this kind of postmodern situationist surfer who becomes a junkie, and a really, really bad junkie, and starts treating people horribly as he descends further and further and further into ultimately his death, which takes place at the age of 27. And that puts him in the 27 ballpark, you know, and the 27s are a group of people who die before they're 28, before they hit their Saturn return. There's a book called The 27s. And there are a lot of famous 27s. Jimi Hendrix, Jim Morrison. There's a ton of 27s. Brian Jones. And Bunker Spreckles is one of them. It's just before the Saturn return. And if you look at their lives, in most cases, they are incandescent. Like they are burning hard. Like this guy Bunker never slept. They're burning. It's like they're using up life, right? And there may be some kind of knowledge, you know, and a priori kind of knowledge that they're not going to make it to 28, you know, and maybe there's a death wish involved. I wanted to bring up his chart. And what I did is I have his chart with his death as well. Let me see if I can find this thing. Give me 1 sec. I got all kinds of charts up here. Let me bring this one up here. Yes. Yes, I want that one as well. And, oh, here's Rosie. What's going on, Rosie? Rosie making a cameo. All right, hold on. I've always got to do this. Oh, here we go. I found it. All right. Okay, so let me bring up his chart here. And let's do this. So I don't have his birth time. So I just went on a kind of a fast and flash kind of rectification with it. So what I did is clearly this guy played by his own rules. He was wild. He was, here she is. He was wild. He was radical, creative, very unstable. So I put Uranus on the ascendant. He also inherited a bunch of money, right? And from the father. So I have Jupiter ingressing into the 8th house. And that's in Capricorn, father, 8th house inheritance. And then he was a big surfer. So I have Pisces on the midheaven, water. Okay, so this is just my flash rectification. So when I was looking at this guy's chart last night, like, how did this guy freaking self-destruct? Well, first of all, he's got the classic Mars-Neptune square, which is indicative of addiction. And I've talked about this a lot with astrology in people's charts. And the addiction can be really, in a lot of ways, dependent upon their resources. And he had an unlimited amount of resources, which meant that his addiction really had no limits either. Mars, Neptune square, Mars in the 1st house, kind of a force, right? Kind of a force, Cancer, again, water. But what really grabbed me about the chart was the Saturn-Pluto, sorry, the Pluto-Sun conjunction with the Sun in Leo and Pluto and 6-degree orb, so it's intense, right? I mean, and generally pretty manageable. I mean, at 6 degrees, you would think that, man, maybe this guy can live with this Sun-Pluto conjunction and be this kind of charismatic, kind of, wild man, attention-getting, self-seeking Leo. He's a Leo. Of course he's a Leo. But when you get into Sun-Pluto conjunctions, you're flirting with death and transformation. So he was always trying to shed his skin. You saw like a part of the trailer where he dyed his hair jet black, and it was normally blonde. So that was part of him wanting to shed his skin and become somebody different. He was always trying on personas. He was kind of oddly Bowie-esque in that way, but in a very Southern California sort of fashion. And then there's a Moon Mercury Saturn square, and that's in Virgo. And he was bright. I mean, Bunker was a pretty bright guy. Saturn's the father in the chart, and I think that's the burden of the father with the Saturn-Mercury conjunction. But this really got me, the Sun-Pluto conjunction, because ultimately, I think it got to him. Now, so I wanted to look up, what was going on with him when he died. So I'll share that with you. Very interesting. Okay, so this is his chart on the inside. He died in Hawaii at 9 p.m. Honolulu, overdose. So check this out, okay? Saturn conjunct Pluto, right there. Time's up, buddy. Saturn's time, right? Time's up. You had a Saturn-Pluto conjunction. It can be intense. It can be very intense. I'm not going to have it in this lifetime, thank God. But it's a test, right? Some people have it. If you've got, let's see, where we now? Pluto in, Pluto is, well, okay, so I had Saturn conjuncting Pluto. Let me see, so I can, no, hold on. Let me backtrack. Yes, I did have Saturn Pluto. Sorry. I was thinking of Pluto and Saturn. Different. No, I had Saturn conjunct Pluto in my chart. When was that? That was, let's see. Let me just go through this. Saturn would have been Saturn in Cancer would have been 14, right? And then Leo 15. Saturn Pluto conjunction right around 18, 19. Oh yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I get that now. Yeah. Yeah, I went through some shit. I went through stuff. I went through some stuff with Saturn and my Pluto, for sure. But I was going through a pretty intense time right around then, and but I made it through. Right? I mean, I made it through. He didn't make it through. So the Saturn-Pluto conjunction is a big one. It's a big conjunction. I had it right around 21. He's got it at 20, 27. But here we go. Time's up. Then we have moon on the sun. But at the same time, he's also got Pluto on Neptune. So transiting Pluto, natal Neptune, transiting Saturn on natal Pluto. It's one of these things where if you're living a life that is relatively clean or healthy, or you have some potential to transform your situation, you'll get through this. You'll be a different person. You'll be a very different person. Saturn at that time was at transiting Saturn was at 15 Leo, and his Pluto is at 16 Leo, almost exact, off by a degree, right? If he had an inclination to transform, I think he could have gotten through this. But there's a weird part of the movie where he's talking to Craig Stesic, and Stesic is asking about filmmakers, and he says that Kenneth Anger wanted him to play the role of Lucifer in Lucifer Rising. And he asked him, well, aren't you afraid of that? He says, well, no, I think I could play it. Well, why do you think you could play? He says, well, because of my studies in magic, M-A-G-I-C-K. And then he asks him, have you met Satan? And Spreckles says, yes. Then he says, are you afraid of him? He says, no, I'm not afraid of him. So I'm also wondering if Spreckles might have made a deal. And I think that maybe this was the Nick knock at the door. But clearly, with Saturn on Pluto and Pluto on Neptune, that is a time of reckoning. Pluto squaring Mars in his chart. Pluto squaring his natal Jupiter in his chart. See the T-square? Too much. It's excessive. That's an overdose. Pluto-Neptune conjunction, square Mars, square Jupiter. Boom. There it is. Neptune, trans-Neptune, 6th house, that's health. Sagittarius, that's too much, right? Sagittarius is also involved in a square with Saturn. It's a reckoning moment. It's a total reckoning moment. Transiting Pluto, transiting Jupiter, square natal Pluto. Overdoing. This chart is just filled with excess. There's no other way, really. Pluto on Neptune, Saturn on Pluto, Neptune in the 6th house, squaring Saturn, transiting Jupiter, squaring natal Pluto, squaring natal Sun. C'est la vie. C'est la vie. But the guy was charismatic, right? Sun-Pluto conjunction. It was there. But I don't think he could have held it together. But I don't think he could have held it together. That's my 2 cents, right? I think he strayed. And I think there are clues at the end when he gives up that interview and basically says, yeah, I've met Satan. So maybe Bunker did a deal. Maybe did a rock star deal. Hell, who knows? I mean, the guy had a shit ton of money. So he had a half brother, John Clark Gable, who is still alive. He's my age. But what's oddly ironic and sad is that John Clark Gable's own son also succumbed to drug addiction and death. He passed away, I believe, this last year in February, if I'm not mistaken. So a dark legacy for the Gable family, even though he was not his biological offspring. All right. Bunker Spreckles. Interesting character. But you know what? There's no shortcuts. No shortcuts. All right, let me see what you guys are talking about in there now. Very charismatic. Yep, absolutely. Neptune and Sag is interesting, It's an interesting aspect. What happened to me? How come I'm not? Oh, there I am. Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, I had Neptune transiting my, what happened here? Oh, you're getting the film now? Okay. Shasta Fogg says, I have a grandchild due 1/11/20. What does that mean to be born with Saturn-Pluto conjunction? It means it'll be a child who will be born into a sense of immense responsibility in some ways. Like that's a planetary responsibility. That's my sense. It's also from a personal sense, very intense um, kind of information with the father, legacy with the father, you know? So you have to look at it. You have to look at where showing up, what house, all that stuff, to make it much clearer. But that's, to me, that's kind of like generational and like having responsibility for a world like 25 or 30 years from now. That's my 2 cents. So when I was young, when I was in high school, actually it all started right around when I was probably about 12 years old. I had Neptune and Sagittarius move into my first house. And I'm convinced that that aspect derailed me. It totally derailed me. It was almost like on cue. Neptune and Sagittarius is my first house, and right around the age of 12, I get smashed for the first time. And then from that point forward, my life was about finding some kind of transcendent moment. You know, when I was 15, 16 years old, I was chasing that stuff. And it did not bode well for my life. That Neptune transit on my ascendant and in my first house, you know, between 12 and 16, man, that was rough. That was really rough. And it was the 1970s. You know, I'm lucky to have gotten through that time, to be quite honest with you. I mean, you know, things could have gone a lot worse than they theoretically did. Trust me. You know, I had a few angels looking at me after me during that time. But I've thought about that transit a lot, actually. I've thought about it a lot. So, all right, what do we got here? Bankers care nothing about anything but counting numbers in the house. Yeah, it's true. Sprecklesville is a North Shore high school class neighborhood, high class neighborhood in Maui. That's his family. Sprecklesville. Okay, let's get into the Kamala chart. Thought I'd just take you down Spreckles Lane for a minute there. It's an interesting character. But at the end of the day, you know, what happened? You know, Hollywood likes these characters like that. You know, live fast, die young, you know, leave a good corpse. Although he didn't look so good at the end. He was all kind of blown out. Okay, let's check out Kamala. Okay. All right, so here's your chart. Sun in Libra, 27. And then she's got that conjunction with Mercury and Scorpio. And, you know, the Mercury and Scorpio, she's going to be sharp. She's going to be sharp. She's going to be, you know, people at Mercury and Scorpio have pretty good minds, very psychologically adept. And with the sun behind her, so she has that kind of, well, I wouldn't say she's pleasant, but I think Kamala Harris or Kamala can be charming in a Libran sort of way, but then she can hit that Mercury Scorpio switch, right? And she's got a trine with Mercury to Saturn. It's a weird trine because Saturn is not in Pisces, it's actually in Aquarius. So, you know, and Saturn in Aquarius can be very calculating, cutting, and cold. You know, there's not a lot of warmth with Saturn in Aquarius. Like the ideals can be really high, but the way that you get there may not always be warm and fuzzy. That's Saturn in Aquarius. It's like, you know, yeah, let's all experience brotherhood, the brotherhood of man, but let's make sure that the ones that don't want to experience it the same way that we do are dealt with, right? Because that's kind of Saturn in Aquarius. The goal is to bring something new into the world, but with Saturn, it's not always warm and fuzzy. It can be very corporocratic or executive-like, right? And she's got this Jupiter square to Saturn, which means that in Taurus, She can get people investing in her. These are investors behind the scene. And I would think that Kamala Harris has big money people behind the scene with Jupiter and Taurus. She's got Jupiter conjunct Algol. And that's, Algol is it's the star that represents decapitation, kaput, right? That's what Algol is. I think if you pissed her off, man, she would be deadly. Deadly. I think she's got big money behind her. She's got Mars and Leo in the third house. So that's communication. And with Mars and Leo, she wants to dominate communication. She wants to dominate communication. Mars and Leo, it's aggressive, right? It's aggressive. Mars in the third house can be aggressive and restless and always moving. And Leo, it wants to own the space. Wants to own the space. She's also got that square to Neptune, which means she has an addiction too. What's her addiction? Power? It's power. She's addicted to power. It's also, so she also told that lie about getting high, right? Third house, communication square Mars, Neptune square Mars. A little bit of prevarication there about her wonderful drug experience. I think she lies a lot. She may not have the same kind of propensity for bending the truth like Trump. Trump has a square with Mercury and Neptune. Okay, inborn prevarication. She's different though. She's different. It's not really about using her words to lie, but she, I think, is more of a liar when it comes to her authenticity. And that here's what else I think about her. I think she's terribly insecure. That's what I think. I think she's got big time insecurity. She may be confident, but I think she's really insecure too. Mars, Leo, Neptune square. I think she's insecure. I think she's got father issues too. That's the other thing, right? With Leo. And even Saturn, Saturn close to her midheaven. She's got that Pisces midheaven. People with Pisces midheavens can be charismatic sometimes. I think people with Pisces midheaven can appeal to the masses if they're motivated in that way. Neptune is going to be retrograding onto her Chiron. That's interesting. That's interesting. I wonder if something's going to come up with her. It's right around the age of between the age of 13 and 15, right around 14. I wonder what's going to happen. What happened to her at 14? That may come out. That may come out. She's got moon in Aries. That's a hot moon, man. People with moon in Aries, when they want to go after something, they'll go after it. They kick it in. Say, I want this. I want this. And she's born on a full moon too. Look at that. She's got full moon energy. Total full moon energy. Boy, I'm really behind. I'm totally behind you guys. Let's see. So, wow, I'm talking about Kamala Harris's chart, and you guys are looking at Bunker Spreckles. Anyway, it's not real time, but we'll catch up at some point. I know we will. She's got problems in relationship. Kamala Harris has problems in relationship. Black Moon Lilith, part of fortune. So she was Willie Brown's lover, San Francisco. That's like part of fortune in Capricorn. That's piggybacking on relationship in some ways, power, status. but she's got the true node in Gemini. And I think with the transit of the true node in her first house during this election cycle, you got to watch out for her. You got to watch out for her because she's going to be on with that true node in the first house. I think Kamala Harris is somebody to watch out for. And it's going to be Harris and Warren. Those are your two candidates. You notice how they separated them out on both nights, by the way. Okay. Any thoughts on Neptune in the first house? Yeah. Neptune on the first house can be a beautiful thing, or it can be very difficult, challenging. That's like scapegoat material, you know? People with Neptune in the first house just want to merge. They just want to merge and want to be, you know, they want to just become part of the environment. And, you know, everything's beautiful and just everything is just wonderful and deeply connected. And everything's I, thou, right? It's all I, thou. It's all one. But Neptune in the first house is also incredibly sensitive, and they find out, well, that's just not how the world is, you know? And it could get really sticky and thorny. And sometimes, you know, people with Neptune in the first house, they can be considered to be really tremendous. Like, oh, look at this person. They've got a great life. They've got so much going for them. Oh, aren't they wonderful? Oh my God, she's a goddess, or, you know, this guy, he's a freaking avatar or whatever, right? And then just like, you know, the old story goes, and they get torn down. And people with Neptune in the first house can become scapegoats for people. It's not the easiest aspect. You've got to learn how to let go. You've got to learn how to forgive. It's a real test, I think, in this lifetime to have Neptune. There's a lot of temptation, too, with Neptune in the first house, you know? A lot of temptation. A lot of temptation. A lot of temptation. Yeah, people really project on you. Yeah, that's right. That's right, Dynamite. I don't know why I'm so behind here. Wow. Okay, I'm going to keep going. I wanted to just show this thing with Kamala Harris and then Joe Biden's chart. It's very interesting. Joe Biden is not going to be the nominee. You forget it. You just forget that. Oh, before I do that, let's see. Okay, so that's Biden. I wanted to show you what was going on. So the night of. Let me do the Kamala Harris Biden chart. I'll do that. Hold on. Okay, so here's Harris with the Biden chart right here. Okay, so she is on the inside, right? She's on the inside. He's on the outside. Now, he's got Mars and Scorpio. And if Joe Biden wasn't so diminished, he might actually be a worthy opponent for her. But I don't think he's going to stand up to her unless he calls in some big guns. What's interesting is they've got a moon-moon conjunction. You know, she's 27 Aries and Biden's moon is in Taurus. And he's born on a full moon as well. So they're both full moon people. And let me see what's going on here. His Saturn is square her Pluto. So that's not great. She wants to take his ass out. That's what I think. And his Saturn's in her 12th house. That's interesting. That's very interesting. So he is a behind the scenes influencer somewhat. He could make life a little bit difficult for her if he starts pressing on donors. But I think she wants to take him out with the Pluto-Saturn square. And then her Mars, which is in Leo, of course, squares off against his Mercury. His sun is at 27 Leo, her Mars. So she's got a Mars squared all of his Scorpio planets. That's aggression. That's aggression. And she may act nice with Neptune here. There may be a veneer, but she wants to take him out. She totally wants to take him out. And his Jupiter is in her second house. She's going to get his money. She's going to get Joe Biden's money. Right there. She's going to get his donors. But I think the key factors here are the Uranus-Pluto conjunction with Venus squaring Saturn, 12th house behind the scenes, and then her Mars and Leo squaring all of his Scorpio planets, with that Neptune kind of being out there as a bit of a cloudy fog, a hazy fog, deceptive, very deceptive. So there you go. She's going to get his money. Jupiter in the second house. His Jupiter's in her second house. I think he's done. I think he's done. Okay, what do we got here? What do we got? What do we got? This is so much. Thanks for doing these charts. It's helpful enlightening. Good. Good. Glad you guys are digging it. So I'm just waiting for you guys to catch up now. My moon is anaretic degree of Aries, waning gibbous. That's interesting, Diana. So if you go after something and you get it, are you disappointed after what you've gotten? Are you disappointed? Curious. Wow, that's interesting. Or do you not go after something and wish you had? Yeah, he was caught off guard with the remarks. That was Neptune. That was Neptune. Her Neptune was on his Sun, Mercury, and Venus. Camouflage. She camouflaged her attack on Biden. He's not well, man. Biden's not well. You know what Biden's like? He's like this old kind of this old water buffalo who's limping around the Serengeti. And Kamala Harris is like this lion, this lioness. And she just took chunks out of his flesh. That's what he's in nature. Joe Biden wouldn't be, if you use that equivalent, he wouldn't be alive. He would not be alive. He's too weak and too lame and too vulnerable. What we saw in a lot of ways was just nature playing itself out. She wouldn't do that. She might do it to Sanders, but Bernie just hit her back with, how could you say that? How could you say that? Have you been to Russia? I've been to Russia. You've only been to Chicago. Okay? That's little Russia. We all know that. She just took chunks of flesh out of him. She wouldn't do that to Buttigieg. She'd have to step very carefully with Buttigieg. She may go after Liz Warren. That'd be interesting. God, could you imagine that? If that happens? Liz Warren with her. Oh, that's really funny. Liz Warren isn't an Indian, but she claims she was. And Kamala Harris is an Indian, but claims she isn't. How about that? There's your ultimate irony. You heard it here first on this show. Liz Warren is not an Indian, but claims she was. And Kamala Harris is an Indian, but claims she isn't. Let's see the two of them go after those talking points with each other. God, that would be awesome. That would be totally awesome. I can't wait to see that. All right, let me check in with you guys. She's a jackal, cat fight. I do one of the best. I used to do pretty good Alex Jones too for a while. Alex is out of my headspace now. Who do I have to do now? I have to figure out somebody now. There's something about Tulsi Gabbard that there's her look troubles me a little. It almost looks like she's under a trance at times. You know, she's like very trance-like. Anyway. Let me do one more. It seems like we're up to speed now. You guys are, I guess you're responding to my jokes. So I guess we're in real time now. I wanted to show you one more chart. This is a cool chart, actually. And I just kind of grabbed this because, well, I thought it was interesting. And you guys will like this. So this is the chart of Raymond Moody. And Raymond Moody wrote this book, Life After Life. It's about near-death experiences. I was fascinated with this book when I was in college, and I did a paper on it. And I was really into the whole near-death thing. I was captivated by it. Anyway, I thought, okay, well, what can we infer from his chart about his relationship with death? Well, first of all, he's got Pluto in the 7th house. Now, guess what? He's got a relationship with Pluto, which means he's got a relationship with death. But then I saw this Mars-Jupiter conjunction in the 8th house, which is the house of death, right? It is the house of Pluto. And that's where he really kind of made his mark. And I think he's done pretty well for himself, you know, with his research and speaking tours and all the other kind of 8th house material. And his Mars and Jupiter, they're pretty close to singleton, right? Like Mars, it's got, what is that? Semi-sextile with Venus and all that stuff, right? Quintile to the moon, but no major aspects except for the conjunction with Jupiter. And Jupiter's the same thing. So they're kind of standing alone here in the 8th house, which is the house of the underworld, right? And what did he do? He explored the relationship with the underworld and the beyond, what's beyond. And Jupiter's publishing. He has Neptune in the 9th house, house of publishing, right? Sextile Pluto. And his midheaven is Scorpio. And what does he have there? He's got moon in Scorpio. What is the moon? It's home. And it's the relationship between home in this world and in death. And he's got all his Cancerian planets trining into that moon. Very intuitive, very psychic guy. Very psychic, guided, I think, to write that book and subsequent books. Anyway, Raymond Moody, happy birthday. And I could see where you did well, where he really found a spot for that Mars-Jupiter conjunction in the 8th house. Very cool stuff. All right. Let's get on out of here. Let's see, Tulsi, VP material. Could be, could be. What else do we have here? Raymond Moody has the Psychomantium. That's right. Yep. Tanya, I live in the Appalachian Mountains. Oh, that's pretty cool. Jenny, I've been on a life after death in NDEs kit lately. Did a past life regression a couple months ago. Fascinating stuff. I've been fascinated with the beyond from a very young age. 8th house moon in Sag in the south node. Yeah, I've got yeah, my vertex is in the 8th house. Black moon Lilith, 8th house. Mars, 8th house. So I've had an 8th house thing for a lot of my life. In Neptune, I have Neptune right on the cusp of the 12th. So I have Neptune ingressing into the 12th. Yeah, I was really into the life after life stuff. Just fascinated by the whole NDE experience. I had an NDE when I was a little kid, but I don't remember it. But I know it happened. I was about 18 months old. I had spinal meningitis. And they brought in the priest to do the last rites on me. And because they didn't think I was going to make it through the night. And then the next day I had this miraculous recovery. So somewhere in the back of my conscious, I've always thought that I was out, you know, that I was, you know, little 18-month-old me was traveling around somewhere and got put back in my body. Mars and Cancer, 8th house, rough. That's okay, man. Trust me. Mars and Cancer in the 8th house has had its moments. It's had its moments. You know, it's kind of intense, but it's had its moments too. Let's just say they're private moments. Jan Emily says, Emily, I remember the last 10 minutes of my last life. I drowned and I remember being born into this life. Wow, that's pretty heavy, right? Wow. That's intense. And then you kind of swim through that amniotic ocean to get to the other side. That's interesting. To get that first breath. Wow, that's interesting. What else we got? I have Saturn in the 8th house in Leo. Mars, Moon in Cancer, 8th house. Ooh, that's intense. You write poetry? So that's a deep, deep aspect. Shasta Fog, I flatlined to no NDE. I felt cheated. Oh, that's a bummer. Lapicius, Capricorn, Jupiter, and Saturn, 2nd house. Opposing my 8th house Cancer. Lapicius says, yes, I do. Yeah, write that poetry, man. Mars in Cancer and Moon in Cancer. It's very occult. It's very witch-like. You know, a lot of powers of intention, a lot of powers of sensuality, a lot of powers of kind of, you know, bewitching, sort of a bewitching vibe and element, herbs, tinctures, all that stuff. The Saturn opposition would be kind of the culture, you know, not always being really down with that, right? It's like, you know, you play by the rules. Mars and Saturn goes into the 8th house and stirs the pot and says, no, I've got other plans. What else do we have? Sun in Scorpio, Mercury in Scorpio. Hey, what's going on, Scoobs? Nice to see you. Bonnie says she's done 9 life between life regressions. It's interesting. My mom has Moon in Cancer. Yes. People who have Cancer elements in their chart tend to be super intuitive, which is the nature of Cancer. Okay. Well, thank you all for showing up tonight. It's been a really cool time breaking this stuff down. So if you go to robertphoenix.com now, you go to my header. I'm changing my website up. So if you go to my header, you'll see Harvest Moon in the Hill Country. Let me just go into the site here. Let me just grab this thing for you guys. Hold on. Oh, I got to go back now. Where are we? Oh, hold on. So this is the information for the event. And it's pretty self-explanatory. I'm going to add some information here, and with the information sheet, like I'm going to add my email address, and I'll put a few links in here. But I wanted to get this going tonight, so here we go. Let me throw this in. Oh, come on. Here we go. There's that. There's that. So I'm putting the text. I'll also put it in the description for the show tonight. And this is the sign-up page. And it has pretty much everything you need to know. It's going to be cool. Let me just throw this up here since I got the page open. Here it is. Harvest Moon in the Hill Country, the celebration of community and life with Robert Phoenix, that's me, and the 11th house, that's you. October 10th through 14th, Hill Country, Texas, with my buddy Stephen Kent, who's playing didgeridoo and doing a little talk on breath, spirit, and power. A lot free. Hey, this is going to be a private concert. with one of the most amazing musicians you'll ever hear, okay? So private concert, Stephen, coming all the way out from California for this. You know Emily Moyer, she'll be there. There's Heather from Astrology with Heather, she'll be there. Glenn Streeter, very interesting character. He's a healer, cutting edge healer. He's been with Regina on Regina's show twice. He's been on Jeff Rent's about 10 times. Glenn and I have really hit it off. So Glenn's going to be there. He's going to be talking about optimal health, quantum health, cutting edge health. He's going to bring some of his toys, going to play with some stuff, right? Lasers, CBD. It's going to be cool. And then our good friends Steve and Chris are going to be there. So we're going to have panel discussions. We're going to have some workshopy things. We're also going to be doing a little bit of traveling, right? We're going to go to Enchanted Rock. We're going to Enchanted Rock. We're going to tour around Enchanted Rock, which is a megalithic structure here in the Hill Country. We're going to go off-site for Stephen's concert. We're going to have catered dinners. We're going to have a Texas barbecue. We're going to have a nice Tex-Mex deal. We're going to have Sunday brunch. We're going to have snacks. It's going to, you know, when we go out to Enchanted Rock, that's going to be catered with sandwiches and nice cold water and fruit. It's going to be a really good time. Really, really good time. So all the information is there on this page. And I'm going to put my email address in here. If you want to share a room, let me know, and I'll hook you up with other people that want to share rooms. So we arrive on Thursday night, but the action starts on the 11th, and we go through Sunday night. You guys can split, and that's going to be on the 14th, and that's Columbus Day. So checkouts on Monday morning, and for 3 days, we're going to get together. We're going to hang out. We're going to have fun. We're going to meet each other. We're going to eat good food. We're going to dance. We're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna exchange information. I'm really excited. Really excited about Glenn being there, and just everybody together under kind of one roof. So there you go. I talked about it. There it is. Okay. All right. Let me check in with you guys before I sign off tonight. Here we go. Enchanted Rock's going to be great. Hey, nice to see you, Michael. Good to see you. Jenny says, I've seen Glenn on Regina's show. Cool. Great. Well, here's the deal. If I get a lot of people that want to go, I can make it happen, but I'm going to have to do something with the lodgings, and I'll probably wind up tracking down some Airbnbs for you people. And we'll, you know, so I don't want to turn anybody away, but I'd like to keep it at kind of a manageable number. Like, I don't want 100 people or 200 people. It'd be way too much. Let's try to make it manageable. I'll try to, you know, if you want to come, we'll figure it out. I was just thinking 50 was a solid number. So, you know, if I get to 50 and I got 10 people that want to come, we'll figure it out. We'll make it work. Okay. All right. I'm out of here. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and being a part of tonight's show. Of course, if you are interested in an astrological reading, you can get that over on robertphoenix.com. And if you want any more information about the event, just let me know. Okay. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thank you again for showing up tonight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the Monday edition of 15 Minutes of Flame. Take good care and have some great dreams.